what's going on here in our country. It's like, how do we go to other countries and fight for them when we have so much chaos here going on when it comes to drugs, when it comes to homeless, when it comes to all of these, when it comes to inflation, when it comes to all these different things. We just had a pandemic where people totally changed the way they live their lives, and so many bad things have come from it. And yet we're paying our attention or directing our attention elsewhere. And I think that, I don't know, maybe that's part of the plan too, because we have an election coming up next year. So don't look at all the chaos in our country. Let's focus the attention somewhere else. Why? Because it's not as appealing to say, vote for me. I'm in a state with homeless, with drugs and all of this. It's like, why don't we focus over here and trying to save the world, when in reality we should focus on here at home and save ourselves.
On today's show, I got Tayler DeGrande. How do you pronounce it?
DeGrande.
Yeah, DeGrande, and I'm super excited to have her on the show today. She's a coach. She's an advocate of learning to become better, and she's around a great environment. So I've been seeing what she's been doing on social media. I know the team she works with. I don't know them personally, but I know who they are. And so I just thought it was fitting for you to be on the show and to share your experiences with our guest. So welcome.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm super excited to be on here today, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, this is cool. So I'm learning how to do this, and I'm sure, I don't know how many podcasts you do. I don't know if there's a ton, but for me, this is new. So I'm glad to have you. Thank you. And I know you're pressed for time. You're pressed for time. So a little bit, I just want to get into a little backstory, and then we can talk some nuts and bolts and some fun stuff. You went to school, right? What'd you take in college? Mm-hmm. What'd you take?
I went to school for fashion merchandising and design.
Wow. Okay. That's cool. I like it. But we can use
and wound up in business consulting.
Yeah, but I'm sure you're using some of those tools you learned beforehand in today's world what you're in, because everything overlaps.
Yeah. Right, for sure. Because from there, I went to Sears corporate office, where I was a buyer for their jewelry department. So it's all like the money, like the margins, the sales, the forecasting. So that type of terminology, and just being immersed in that type of environment, I can then translate here as far as back knowledge to then use it on my day to day.
Yeah, yeah. So, I seen something about how you ended up. So you're at. Is it Valuetainment, or what's the name of the company you're at?
Yes, through Valuetainment, that's the umbrella, but we are actually an entity within Valuetainment, which is Bet David Consulting. And so I'm in the consulting division. I'm a senior business coach here. And so it's with Valuetainment, but we are a separate entity that is Bet David Consulting.
Yeah. And so you went to college for fashion. You ended up you said Sears, I believe. Am I saying that right? No, not Sears.
Yep, Sears corporate office.
And
Before they went, phew.
And so how did you end up at Bet David Consulting, right where you're at in Florida? Because I know you're not from Florida. Where are you from?
No. I'm originally from Macomb Township. It's in New Baltimore. It's a small town in Michigan. Yeah. I made my way to lovely, sunny Florida.
And so how did that happen? Like, how do you, I seen a little bit, and I know a little bit, but I don't know a lot of people, because you're going to become known and popular and stuff like that. So, I mean, tell everyone how you got to where you're at right now.
Yeah, for sure. So prior to this, I'm originally from Florida, but I was working at Sears corporate office. So that was in Illinois. And then from there, I started getting into real estate. And so I had a few investment properties. My partner and I were top producers in Illinois, assisted with him opening up his own brokerage. It's called Inspire Realty Group in Elgin, Illinois. And during that time, I followed Patrick online, similar to you, on YouTube, watched the podcast for about 4 or 5 years. And then it was December of 2021. I'm actually in the car with my mom. It's around the holidays. It's in December. And he posts a 5-minute video, and he's like, I'm shutting down the channel. I'm going to take a break from some of the content. We're spending time with family over the holidays, but Valuetainment's growing and we're hiring. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, I can go work for Patrick Bet David. Like, wherever this man's going, whatever he's doing, I want to be a part of it. Because I was into the vision, I saw the mission, I seen where he was going. And so I went online and it said like marketing, sales, it had all these different positions. I was like, I was in real estate, I could do sales, like I'll do it. So redid my resume that night. I ended up applying the next day, got myself an interview with Mario, who is the chief sales officer here. He's been with Patrick, I believe it's going to be 18 years in December, from PHP through Valuetainment. And I had my interview and we sit down, we're in South Florida, and he's like, so Tayler, tell me, why would you want to work for Valuetainment? And like, without hesitation, I said, because we're going to save America. And he's like, interesting. And so we just talked about the vision of the company, where it's going, what they want to do. And he's like, all right, I'm going to give you a shot. And so I really didn't even know what my position was or what the salary was or the commission, whatever it was. I just knew I had a job at Valuetainment. And 3 weeks later, I moved across the country to come here in the consulting division, where I work directly with PBD CEOs from all over the world. And it's been a whirlwind and a dream come true, to be honest.
I mean, that's amazing, because imagine like how many people in today's world, especially in America, get an opportunity and don't seize it, just as you have. You know, it's like we miss it. You know, so many of us just like miss it. He's like, come here to me and you got a good opportunity. You're like, I'm going. And so many people miss it and yet complain. I mean, like, talk about that. That's a great, like, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thank you. And I would say 100%, I feel that part of, it's almost like ignorance is bliss to a point. Like, you're willing to just take action. Mm-hmm. And I've been like that my whole life, I would say, to a degree. When I got into real estate, I got into it because the gentleman who ended up being a mentor of mine saw something in me before I saw it in myself. And he's like, well, why don't you work for me? I was like, okay, for sure. And the same thing with Patrick, I felt the same way. And I feel like part of that is people to be more open-minded. You have to take risks and you have to seize the opportunity, because an opportunity like this, it does not come around all the time. Like, you probably only have 2, maybe 3 real big opportunities in your life. And if you don't see them or you're not willing to take action on them, you're going to miss out. And so I obviously am a big fan of Patrick and the vision that he has when it comes to America and everything like that. So there was nothing that was going to hold me back from taking the opportunity. And so if I had any advice to people, it would just be, you know, take a risk on yourself. Like, if you're going to bet on someone, bet on yourself, take a risk, take chances. Like, what's the worst that could happen?
Yeah.
Or I would say also, if I didn't take the opportunity, I would definitely have regretted. Would I rather live in regret or see what happens? I'm going to see what happens.
Yeah, because like worst case is you go back home, right? Best case is you get around people and the rest of your life changes forever. Like, I can't imagine. So yeah. I remember when I started making big changes in my life and I started going really, really fast, right? And so I'm sure that's happened to you. Can you touch on that? Like how like it just snaps and everything's just really fast.
Yes, really fast. I mean, 3 weeks later, I moved down here. And then, of course, when you're working for a CEO, and I know you know this being a CEO of a company too, and working for someone like Patrick, we are constant, like all the time. Like, as far as things move really fast, as far as your progression, things really move really fast when you're working for a company that when I started last February, there was 25 of us. There's now 90 of us. And so we're expanding. There was only 6 of us in the consulting side. Now there's 30 of us. And with everything going on between podcasts, between work, between moving, travels, events, it's like we're moving 1,000,000 miles a minute. And so it does move really fast. You have to continuously adapt and evolve too when you're in these types of environments. Otherwise, you're going to be left behind. And honestly, life outside of Valuetainment seems very slow. I don't know, when people are no longer with the company, I don't know how they do it. It's just like, we're moving 1,000,000 miles a minute because obviously Patrick's leading from the front. So it's a very fast-paced life, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, but the gains are so much, it's so worth it. Like what you're learning and what you're doing, and the result is, it shows each step, right? Because even I see from afar, I watch your posts and stuff like that. And obviously I watch the podcast, all like religious, but not really, but I watch a lot. But so the gains are there. And that's what I don't understand about some people is they don't take the initiative to go above and beyond and to challenge themselves, you know, to go get it. Like I tell people all the time, listen, if you can, and I'm not the best in the world at anything. I go, but I'm better than some people, right? And I go, if you can be around me more, you will definitely learn. you'll become better. But it's up to you to want it. I'm not going to go chase you and be like, hang out with me and, I'll teach you. No, it's like, if you make time, I'll tell people they want to learn from me or something. Okay, well, come after I'm done with my day. Show me, and then most people won't do it. But yet they'll complain. And so kudos to you for doing it. You know what I mean?
Thank you. Yeah. And that's so true. Like, proximity is power. And for those who do fight for your time and you give them, they have such an edge in life because there's so much knowledge and wisdom for you to share as like a CEO in your life and your story, which I know a little bit about as well from seeing your content. So you can learn so much from people, but you have to be willing to put yourself in the ring, and you have to be willing to, and I think some of that is, it's not only the fear of like taking a risk, and it's a fear of failure, a fear of rejection. But if you live by that fear and you let that hold you back, like, you're just limiting your potential. And it's a sad truth to say that the world's full of people that will never reach their full potential. And that's because they're not taking the risks and betting on themselves, knowing there's a good probability you will make mistakes, you will fail. But that's why those who are most successful, they've experienced the most failure and the most setbacks, because they were willing to take risks, but they didn't allow that failure to stop them. So, and just one more thing on that, when you put yourself in an environment with entrepreneurs like you, with people like Patrick, you're in such great company and you're learning so much. It's almost impossible to fail if you are persistent and you have a good attitude. You know, in my opinion, you're faith-based, but if you have that right attitude in that direction, you're going to have failures or like setbacks, but you're not going to be a failure because you're in such a great community around such great people that aren't going to stop. So, you just got to be willing to take the risk.
Yeah. Well, two things I'll touch on what you said is proximity is power. So for people that don't understand it, that means get around people, good people that are doing better and you're around you. And that's where you gain the power from that, from who you're around, right? Who's in your proximity. That's what she's saying. Proximity is power. And it's like, just those words alone is, people don't understand, is just get around people that are doing better. You know what I mean? Get around people that are doing better. So, and then the other thing is, like you said, like faith, like your faith is a big part of your life. Faith is a big part of my life. And I'm seeing it more and more. I've been, going to church probably 15 years now, or 16 years, whatever it is, 17 years. And, I'm seeing more and more people today, like, get some sort of faith. Like, and especially when you have good people throwing out good content where it's like, this is really happening, guys. These things are really happening. The world's a little more crazier than and like, you better grab onto something good and positive, because if you don't, something's gonna latch onto you that ain't so good. You know what I mean? So I'm glad you're doing that.
100%. 100%. And it plays an important role in my life for sure. Yeah.
Well, I think like, I'm in, like, in my faith, I believe God will give us what we can handle, right? And so, and I also believe like the people will say like, God will open the doors for you, right? But you have to have the confidence in yourself to be able to walk through that door, And so, just like yourself is, you're like, okay, I have faith, God opened the door, but you got to go and you got to walk through it. You know what I mean? We got to make that journey. It's up to us to make the journey and then go and put in the hard work. You know what I mean? So it's so cool.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what is it with the story of Moses parting the Red Sea? It doesn't really part until he takes a step into it. And so God is going to do what he has to do as long as you put your faith and trust in him. But the only way you do that and prove that you really trust him is you actually take the step forward. Because you can say you trust him all day, but if you're not actually taking actions, then do you really have faith? And so at the end of the day, don't put all the pressure on yourself and lean into yourself. Just lean into him and he'll clear the path of which way you should go.
Yeah. So I noticed recently you were at UPW. Tony Robbins. Was he over there in Florida, or did you go somewhere?
I flew to Dallas. I flew to Dallas to experience it.
How was that?
It was a great experience. I've never been to a Tony Robbins event. I've heard great things about him. A lot of those who are part of our community have also spoken very highly of him. And I knew of him because obviously he's the GOAT in his industry, but I never really listened to his content. So it was like fresh as far as like who he was, his content. A lot of energy. Like, you can tell that his whole philosophy is behind energy. It was a powerful experience. We got to walk across the coals, and I was blessed enough to position myself in the line with Tony. So he was actually the one that like gave me off to walk across the coals. So that was a super, really cool experience. It was a lot on mindset, a lot of energy, a lot of breaking beliefs. And I just think he's a beast. I mean, he was up there 10, 11 hours
Yeah.
talking all day, no breaks, 63 years old. He's direct. He's, a strong leader, but he's also empathetic and emotional, and he's funny. I really enjoyed it. And the people there were phenomenal for sure.
Yeah. So you would recommend it?
Yeah. Have you ever been?
No, we've always, my wife and myself have always talked about going, and actually my cousin is best friends with some lady that's maybe his number 2 or something. So they've invited us, and we just never went. And then I seen you, I'm like, man, she beat me,
I beat you.
Yeah, but it's good because
two.
it's all about learning and growing. And then, in your position, you're a coach now. You gotta gain nuggets and get that wisdom inside you. That way you can implement it into your students, or what do you call them? Your protege? What do you guys call them? Your customers? What do you call them?
Yeah, the clients that we work with, the entrepreneurs. I like to say entrepreneurs because that is who we work with, and so they're more than just clients to us. We build healthy, deep relationships, and so I would say, the entrepreneurs that we work with.
And so when you're coaching, what does that look like to say when because obviously you want to get entrepreneurs underneath your tutelage, and obviously you're under the umbrella. And what does that look like when someone gets the opportunity to work with you and the company? How does that look for them? Just in case they're watching to say, hey, I want a coach. I want, someone in this space. What does that look like?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I would say, so I'm a senior business coach here in the consulting division, but essentially I am a guide to the expert operators that are those like Patrick, those like Tom Ellsworth. They've operated businesses. They're CEOs, founders, executives within companies. And so the pathway to that and who we mostly work with, these are CEOs and founders. For those of you who know Patrick, his personality. He's a no nonsense kind of guy. And so it's people who are really looking to grow. They're looking to scale. They've gotten as far as they can because of sheer will, being the entrepreneurial spirit, but they're looking for a few different things. One, to be around a community of like-minded individuals. Entrepreneurship can be lonely. So to be in a community of people who understand you, they've gone through the same struggles, they have opportunities, they're building businesses, they have families, they're big thinkers. So community, and then vision and clarity, like direction of where they want to go, maybe confirmation of what they've done or things that they want to do. And then also strategy, like maybe they know where they want to go, but there's a gap from where they are and where they want to go. And they're trying to figure out how to fill it based off what their goals are, what their objectives are, and what they're looking to do. That is where we come in, whether it be, systems and strategies, marketing strategies, organization structures. And we would direct them. I would direct them, processing with them, figuring out their needs, and seeing what would make most sense to them. Is it mentorship or coaching with Patrick Bet-David? Is it mentorship or coaching with Tom Ellsworth? Is it group? Is it one-on-ones? That's really depending on the individual, but it's entrepreneurs that are looking to grow, they're looking to scale, they're looking to do whatever it takes, and they want to be around like-minded individuals that share the vision we do, which is valuetainment, it is capitalism, it is freedom, and it is entrepreneurship, because we believe entrepreneurs are heroes. Without entrepreneurs, they're the ones that build families, build communities, and the world goes round because they're willing to take risks and they're willing to risk something. So that's who we work with, and it's something I thoroughly enjoy doing on a daily basis.
I totally agree with you. Like, capitalism, entrepreneurism is the backbone of America. And so many people have forgotten 100%. That. Even entrepreneurs themselves have forgotten that. I don't even know what to think about that. We'll get into some of that. I want to value your time. But so no coaching with Vinny, huh?
Not yet. Maybe in the future. How to become a comedy specialist. But Vinny's always in the office, and it's hilarious. One time I was on a call, and this is when he was doing the trans video, like the transplant, and he had like a pink wig on. And I'm on a call with someone, he walks behind me in a dress, and he pops his head in. So it's definitely always entertaining. There's no valuetainment without the entertainment portion. And Vinny keeps it very fun.
Yeah, that's so cool. So on the coaching side. So if they come to you, do you become the coach, or are you one of the levels of coaching, or do you hand them off to someone? How does that look? Just so people kind of know. I mean, you don't have to give everything, but how does that look?
Yeah. So yes, we have calls, like strategy calls, but really my job is to ensure that they're prepped for their sessions with Patrick, with Tom. So I'm learning about their businesses, processing what are their next few moves, what issues are they running into, what opportunities are they running into, and we'll process some things together, more of the smaller items where we can make them think, ask them questions. Why? So for the big questions that they have, those are what they're then processing with Patrick, then processing with Tom. And so those who I work with, I'm talking to them once, twice a month, really learning into their business, processing anything that they have to process. And then, of course, prepping them for their sessions with the expert operators, which is Patrick Bet-David, Tom Ellsworth, Bob Kersner. And we're building out that team to have even more within the consulting division.
And so if someone wanted to, they said, hey, I want Patrick Bet-David, or I specifically want Tom, and learn, he's more like finances, and he's a pretty smart guy.
Yeah.
Like, do you get to pick and choose who you want? Or do you say, hey, I think your needs are over here? Is that your choice?
Yes, I would say based off what you're going through, I will make a recommendation. Because we do have different products and services, like it's one-on-one coaching, maybe it's more of an elite mastermind. There's only 7 people on the call with Patrick, or it's a group, or we have events that we host. So based off what they're going through, I'll make a recommendation. And not everyone, it depends. Like if it's one-on-one coaching or like the elite mastermind with Patrick, we are more selective of who's a part of that, because we're not just going to put anyone in front of Patrick. Why? Because they have to have his time is valuable. We have to have a reason for them to actually process it with them. And so we want to make sure that they have something that they're processing, big picture, and so that they're going through that. And then that's what we're doing with him. So I would say it's more selective when it's one-on-one, or when it's a part of like the elite mastermind portion of it. We make a recommendation. At the end of the day, it's up to them what they want to do, but it's just not like you can do whatever you want. There is a process to it.
Yeah, that makes total sense. All right, so moving on from there.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get you some more clients. That's what we're gonna do. Maybe one,
I appreciate
at
that.
least one that you've been trying to get for a little bit.
I wonder who that one is.
I know. You know what? It's kind of intimidating though, because I'm so busy here, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna flake out and get kicked off the team, and you know what I mean? Look like an idiot.
Yeah, and that's really normal though, like for you to think that way. I have a woman, she's a beast, and so are you, like that runs a great operation. She goes to all the events, and like, Tayler, sometimes I'm like intimidated to process or get in front of Patrick, but he understands where all of you guys are too when it comes to being busy, when it comes to doing a million things. And so there is a level of understanding, and then there's also a level of accountability, which everyone needs. So it's good to feel a little uncomfortable when you're in those rooms, because that's how you grow.
Yeah, I think our yes needs to be yes, and our no needs to be no. So yeah, if you say you're gonna do something, do it, or just go home. Yeah. Okay. So let's
get out of here. You're fired.
Yeah, get out of here. Lazy bum. I'm just kidding. So let's talk some other topics, because I know we without even knowing you, and I just seeing who you're around and what you're about, I think we think on the same levels. Probably almost exactly the same, because you wouldn't be there where you're at if you didn't think that way. And so okay, I'm going to give you two topics we could talk about, and you pick one and talk about it, or the other, and we'll just kind of discuss it, right? Have fun. So we either can go religious, church, or politics. And so if we can go politics, we go world. So what do you think?
So both are really interesting to talk about. I would say, I know, there's a lot going on in the politics space, obviously, especially with the election coming on.
Yeah.
And then, of course, faith. That one's more like fun, controversial. Faith it can be controversial, but it's more like alignment. So let's do politics.
Let's do it. Okay. So, because I'm always looking for someone to talk about this stuff with. Everyone thinks I'm crazy. But it's because
it's so much fun,
and nobody pays attention. Not nobody, but a lot of people don't pay attention. Don't even know what's going on, right? All right. So politics. What do we want to talk about? War? We want to talk about California? We want to talk about New York? I'm putting it in your hands because I just like this. I'm having fun now.
Well, I was just in California and I was just in New York as well. So I would say if you want to, let's actually go. Let's go. We can go. We're going to go controversial, but let's do it. I was actually, Patrick just rolled out a podcast recently. It's called like Unusual Suspects that I've been on a few times where we talk about war, we talk about religion. So let's talk about war. There's quite a bit of it going on here today.
Yeah, yeah. So no, it's crazy. The war is crazy. So I've been watching a lot of videos, trying to learn some history. You know what's going on, and so obviously we got a few wars going on, right? You know, we got you know, the Hamas and Israel. You know, we got Ukraine and Russia. You got China looking at Taiwan. You got Iran. They're like basically the middleman for everybody doing bad over there. You know, they're the money. You know, they're funding everything, right? And so like, okay, so let's just talk about the Israel war, Israel and Hamas. You know, what's your take on that? Because like for me, I see all these things and people are, you know, obviously see marching. You see someone ripping down the flag, the American flag in America, and I'm like, hey, just leave the country if you don't want to be here. You see, you know, kind of like save Palestine, and then but you don't actually see anyone, you know, saying, hey, what's actually happening, you know? And so what are your thoughts on that? Like what's actually happening? I mean, both people are dying on both sides, right? But like, it's kind of like if you punched me, right? And you're a woman, obviously we're, you know, not gonna hit a woman, but say you're a man and you punched me and try to like really hurt me, I'm gonna defend myself, right? And if for some reason you punch me and you run, I'm running after you.
I think it's a horrific situation on both sides, like you mentioned. Like innocent people have been killed, unfortunately, on both sides. As far as the situation itself, now it's something that's been going on for decades and decades, centuries, even when it comes to the yeah. So for me to know exactly what's going on that extent, there's just so much. There's so much history to it. I will point out that I think there's some things that don't make sense when it comes to the attack that we were kind of talking about, like the initial attack on Israel. Israel has one of the best, if not the best, defense when it comes to military defense. And so their security is very high. So for them not to know that this was coming is concerning. Either they don't know because they were incompetent, or they did know and they didn't stop it. I don't know which one it is, but both of them aren't good when you think about it from a defense perspective. And it took them 6 hours to then respond. Where if something like that happened, you would assume your military would be on it right away. So that's a little strange to me when it comes to that. That just doesn't seem plausible.
Yeah.
And now I don't know for sure, but you think about it, then when the attack happens, what does that then give Israel the ability to do? Really whatever it wants. So maybe it was something that was planned for them to then attack, but maybe it wasn't, and it was incompetency. But that's one thing that I noticed and that I've been kind of processing. I'm curious if you've seen something different or what you think about that.
Yeah, no. So it's the same thing. I mean, like personally, they would have to. The whole Israel would all have to be asleep at the same time, you know. For something like literally, okay, it's 12 o'clock, the whole country, let's go to sleep, you know, close your eyes, turn off all the lights and cameras, and, you know, but, so it's one of those things where it's like, you know, where someone lures someone in, you know, and so it could have possibly been a lure situation where it's like, okay, let them come and attack. We know they're going to come. They're not going to come hard. You know, they think they're coming hard, but we already know because we got some intel, right? They're going to come with a few guys coming over the air, and they're going to shoot like 50 missiles, or we know where they're going to attack, right? Because they already know. And, you know, they shot a lot of missiles originally. And so you would have thought, I think it was like 1,500 people died the first time, or 1,100, whatever it is. It would be a higher number even then. So at some point they knew what was going to get hit, right? And so like, and I could be totally wrong. This is all like speculative. Is if they're coming in and they're saying, hey, they're going to shoot us. Okay. Now, like you said, now it becomes a reason to go back and say, okay, let's just finally be done with these people. It's it's kind of a smart play, right? They look stupid at the same time. They also look like they're vicious at the same time, but it's kind of like they keep poking at us. You know what? It's like if you we'll go back to a fight, right? And if you hit someone, you could go to jail. But if they hit you, now you have the right to defend yourself. So it's like one of those things, like you kind of draw someone in and let them hit you, and then now you can attack, right? So it's kind of one of those like rope-a-dope type things. I think that's how it looks anyways from afar.
I would agree. And it doesn't just, and the thing is, it doesn't just stop there, because then what else happens? The whole world gets involved. Like, oh, who are you supporting? Who are you supporting it from a country standpoint, from an individual standpoint? Because then everyone has to have, like, you either choose this side or this side, where we're both saying we don't really know. Both people are innocent. Both things have happened. But then you have, like, the American politicians, their reaction to it is honestly most concerning for me, because obviously we both live in America. And I don't feel like, for example, Nikki Haley, who is a presidential candidate, she was sharing that, an attack on Israel is an attack on the U.S. Now, of course, we have allies, but it's not an attack on the U.S. And so she was saying, like, we should just finish them. We should just, as far as, like, when it comes to Palestine, it's like, I don't feel that our knee-jerk reaction from our political leaders should be then we should just get into war. And so I find that to be concerning, because it wasn't an attack on the U.S. It was an attack on Israel. We can definitely decipher or, differentiate the two. Even though there are allies, it wasn't an attack on the U.S. And I don't like that our knee-jerk reaction from a leadership standpoint for someone who's running for president is to get into war, because that is just more American lives at risk. That's more money. That's more chaos within the world. And so from a leadership perspective, and you being a leader, what are some things that you would like to see from leadership within the U.S. government, if I could turn it around on you, when it comes to reactions to situations like this?
Well, first of all, it's Dick Cheney in heels.
Right?
No. So you got to watch his movie, his documentary too. You'll learn if you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
The one about Dick Cheney.
I haven't. I'll write it down right now.
I forgot what it's called. Okay. It came out a couple years ago. So like, I think for us America is so screwed up right now where we stand. Ourselves are messed up. I mean, homelessness is high. Drugs are like all-time high. People, I think in a matter of a month, my nephew died from fentanyl, and a guy at our church died from fentanyl. Like a matter of a month, right? I haven't seen my nephew in like 10 years, but like Horrible. He was still my nephew, right? So we have so much issues here, and for the United States politicians to pay more attention outside of the United States is crazy. They don't even realize what they're doing. I don't know if they do or they don't. I would say in a long term, they probably don't realize it, because when you make the bed, you have to sleep in it, right? And so, but it's easy to to do things now and think it's okay right now, but like later on, what's the repercussions of it, right? And so, I think like we have to pay attention. I think we have to pay attention to certain areas of the world, but that's about it, because the problem is there's so much money involved in all this stuff. When I started looking at like Saudi Arabia, when you look at like Iran and all the groups they're funding, and you start looking at the Middle East, and you start looking at the wars we did, and then you look at like Saudi Arabia, right? And when you look at Saudi Arabia, United States created an oil company with Saudi Arabia at one point. So if you look it up, like we created an oil company with Saudi Arabia. And then if you really get, like, we've had a treaty type thing with Saudi Arabia straight for like 18 years now. That's because of the oil, right? Mm-hmm. And then so if you look it up, we're positioned to around certain countries, right, to pounce, right? But the problem is we're so worried about what's happening over there that we forget about what's happening over here. And that's where the problem. Right. That's where the problem lies, because now you have all these people coming in. You have all this drugs coming in. You have the crime coming in. You have the politicians coming in. This crazy way of thinking coming in, and and then so now we start having internal problems. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a marriage. Like when someone starts pulling a husband and wife aside and starts feeding them two different things as far as like information. The husband and wife can eventually turn against each other, and now they're fighting. Say kids do it. right? Yeah, like, and now they're fighting, and it could lead to a divorce, right? And internal conflict. And so that's what's
Mhm.
actually happening is we're over there trying to take over everybody else's land and oil and natural resources or whatever it may be, when and all they're doing is coming this way. It's like we're going over there and they're coming over here. It makes no sense. None of it. None of it.
Yeah, I agree. And you made a good point as far as like what's going on here in our country. It's like how do we go to other countries and fight for them when we have so much chaos here going on when it comes to drugs, when it comes to homeless, when it comes to all of these, when it comes to inflation, when it comes to all these different things. We just had a pandemic where people totally changed the way they live their lives, and so many bad things have come from it. And yet we're paying our attention or directing our attention elsewhere. And I think that I don't know. Maybe that's part of the plan too, because we have an election coming up next year. So don't look at all the chaos in our country. Let's focus the attention somewhere else. Why? Because it's not as appealing to say, vote for me. I'm in a state with homeless, with drugs, and all of this. It's like, why don't we focus over here and trying to save the world? When in reality, we should focus on here at home and save ourselves.
Yeah, it's like a rouge, like they're putting up like a mirage. But yeah, it's crazy what's happening with the politics and what's what the horizon looks like. Because you have the first time I voted was in 2016, and I'll say I've never really said it, but I did vote for Trump, right? And so
Hmm.
people are like, oh my God, they're not gonna like me no more, hire us no more. But and so that was the first time I voted ever. Because I had a felony. Well, I still have the felony, but I couldn't vote for a while until I got it cleaned up. And so I didn't vote, right? And then I didn't really pay attention to politics. I did kind of, but not really until Trump came in, because
Hmm.
I already had liked him, way before, because he's a developer. That I'm construction. I like development. That's the same world
Of
that
course.
I live in. And when you start seeing and then when I started to pay attention to politics more and more, and then you start to see who's who and why they're doing it. Then you start to say, okay, well, does this affect my family? Does this affect my kids? Does this affect my nephews, nieces, my our best friends' children? And like I tell the story is we took our kids out of public school a few years ago. They're a little older now.
Good for you. Yeah.
But so my youngest daughter was, and I tell the story, you may have heard it, is when we took her out of grade school, we basically the end of the end was, and I got backlash saying this before on YouTube and stuff, but I'll say it again. The end of the end was when the teacher took down the American flag. They already had took, this is like 4 years ago, 3 years ago. Yeah, probably
Crazy.
three, something like that. And so she's in 8th grade or 7th grade or whatever it was. Maybe it's 2 years ago. And the teacher took down the American flag, and it's like first day of school or something, and she put up a rainbow flag, which is cool. Like, believe how you want to believe, but once you start forcing the belief on someone else, that's where the problem like in lies, right? And then you start teaching them ideologies that are changing from the household, So that's where it's like so then I started paying more attention, like, well, what's really going on, and why is this really happening, and how can we make changes? Because I think the change, it's the change can be within us. Even though people say, well, I have no say so, and my vote don't matter, and what I say don't matter, and all this stuff. But it actually does matter, because one person turns into two turn into 100, 100 turns into 1,000, or so on. And so if we could pay a little more attention to what's actually happening in your neighborhood and protect your families, and I think it's happening a little bit right now. I think things are starting to kind of revert back. I think the last that transgender podcast that just came out the other day, with PBD,
Yeah.
that was eye opening, and it's like, oh my gosh, like, and people don't
is a non-negotiable, especially for the public school system, when who do you think pays for that? The American taxpayers. So I find that to be ironic, but actually not so, because it's very common. So kudos to you for doing that. And exactly what you said on that too, when it comes to hearing both sides and allowing the individual to make up their own mind. And that's where you mentioned Patrick in the podcast. We feel that next year is going to be his Super Bowl, because he does fill that void where so many people are maybe upset with politics or want to tune out because it's divisive and they don't want to listen to it, where Patrick provides that opportunity for anyone to come out and have a conversation and speak their mind, because he believes that people are smart enough to make their own decisions. So giving them that platform to hear both sides, and then ultimately you can decide on what you want to do. And so super excited for that. And it's also up to the individuals and parents like yourself to make decisions for their kids on how they want them to be raised. For individuals like us to pay attention to politics. You mentioned you didn't really pay attention to before. Either did I. I was a senior in college and I was like, you know what? I should probably pay attention to politics. I'm about to join the real world, taxes, life. Like, I should probably know what's going on. And so I thought I would be more left leaning because of the culture, and I never paid attention. That's just what I assumed. And then I started paying attention to the debates back in 2016, and I was like, yeah, no, I'm not. I'm more conservative for sure. It just makes more sense as I'm listening to it. And obviously Trump was running. He was the first person I ever voted for him twice. And I went to go speak. I've seen him speak now 3 times. So it just made sense. It was kind of like the no nonsense. And I think he played an essential role with just like his tonality, like maybe not tonality is the right word. Maybe his just like simple communication. And I think he was the wrecking ball that was necessary to start sparking up the conversations to break through the status quo that so many of us have been, that we've normalized over time when it comes to politics.
Yeah. This is why I think like we got to bring God back in the picture. Is if you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. Right. And so this goes with these kids, that goes with grown-ups, adults that are confused and lost. Like, let's give them something to believe on, some faith to stand on. And it starts in the school. Cause like, I remember when I was younger, so I'm 43. When I was a kid, there was programs in schools. Like one of them was DARE, drugs against resistance, whatever. But it was like a police drug program. Right. And they were like, hey, don't do drugs. And they had a mascot and all this stuff. Right. And they were pushing like good things, to live your best life. And all that stuff started getting pulled out, and I pledge allegiance to the flag, and God we trust, and all these things. I mean, the money has in God we trust. And it's getting pulled out more and more, and to where it becomes where you're almost like the podcast is where you're like, you become the God, and, or whatever group you're part of becomes the religion. And it's like, well, that's temporary. God is eternal. Like, and if you go back to like the beginning of time, thousands of years, however long you want to go, God was in the picture. Not a gender or this thought or that thought. It was like, it was God. And you know what I mean? And so it's like, what's going to stand the test of time? That's what I want to roll with. I want to roll with good thoughts and having good faith and teaching the young people like, hey, listen, if I did it, you can do it. If Tayler did it, you can do it. Right. And I think, but that faith and instilling that faith of God into people, that's the key that has to happen for us to make that shift. What do you think?
I would completely agree. I've always been a believer, but I would say I've gotten more in tune to my faith probably for the last 3 years. Like, we're going to church regularly, reading the Bible, really understanding the stories of the Bible. And once you do that, nothing that we're going through is too crazy, because nothing is new under the sun. It's just a different environment as far as technology and advancement. But what we're going through, I always say, which like all wisdom can be found in the Bible if you read the stories and you take the time to understand them. And with that, every human, they're yearning for something. And so that something is God. But if it's not filled by God because they're not a believer, then it could be, the green movement. Then it could be the government and politics. Then it could be, I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. Or something is going to be filled from that. It could be vices. It could be the world, or it could be the word, which is God. And so I think everyone has that hole. It's just, what do you fill it with? And the only way you find fulfillment, in my opinion, and how you find peace and fulfillment and purpose is when you fill that void with the Holy Spirit. And so I I know even from someone who has faith, when you want to live a big life, it comes with a lot of pressure. It comes with like a lot of work, a lot of sacrifice. And so it doesn't mean it's easy when you have faith, or it doesn't mean it's easy when you believe in God, but it does give you a level of like peace. It does give you a level of everything's going to work out, even though it's chaos everywhere. And so I don't know if you can find that without having a relationship with God. And the more I learn about the Bible, the more I read the stories, the more peace I find, because everything works out. And when you read the stories like Abraham, Moses, they all go through trials and tribulations, and they're in the desert. There's chaos, there's death, there's all of those things. But what? There's a promise at the end. But the only way you go and achieve that promise is you go through the process. So if there's one thing that I enjoy and want to continue doing for the rest of my life, it's growing and strengthening my relationship with God. And I feel that that's where you find true purpose and true fulfillment.
Awesome. Well, I want to value your time, and you said to achieve the promise, you must go through the process, and that's so powerful. Yeah. Everybody who's watching this, look up Tayler DeGrande. You're on LinkedIn, you're on Instagram, you're all over, right? Are you on Twitter?
Yes, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram. That's where I'm most active.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and so follow her, like her stuff. Get her to coach you. They're really good. They're top. They're top of the line. And I appreciate your time. And this is a great conversation. And be blessed. Thank you.
Yes, appreciate the opportunity. God bless, and thank you.
Bye.